So you were saying?
I don't remember. About what?
Vegetarian.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking about your vegetarian story earlier today, and that's probably why I brought it up, because it dawned on me that I've, been in this band for a year, and we've been, hanging out and talking about this, that, and the everything, but I never knew or heard your story on how that all came to be. So it's just kind of a gradual realization that, you know what, I don't need meat. I'm okay without it.
Yeah, and as I started kind of cutting things out of my diet, I just kind of decided, let's start cutting the meats out. I guess I kind of lost the taste for it. I love grilling. I love cooking. I will grill and cook anything you want quite frequently.
Yeah, because you grill salmon quite a bit in the summer months.
Kate eats chicken and turkey, and so I'll throw that on the grill. And I've done burgers.
So you don't force her to play along?
Nope. The interesting thing is, so Henry's 3 now. We've had the conversations and we've talked about it, and we've decided we definitely don't want to push that on him. And at that early age too, we're very mindful of the nutrition that he has and all that. And so we've tried to make a point to make sure that he has available and has the ability to try any and everything that he wants to.
That way he can make his own decision.
Right. I think at school, when he's sitting with the other kids in class and the lunches that they provide or whatever, he pretty much will eat whatever you put in front of him. But at home, even when we offer him a hamburger or something that's meat, he gravitates towards what we eat. He loves salmon. He loves shrimp. My gosh, that kid can put away the shrimp.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of shrimp. It sounds like he and we could be best buds.
We are constantly telling him small bites, because he'll just
whoof them down. Honey, I thought we had shrimp in here. We did. Where's Henry?
Nope, not anymore.
He's passed out on the couch in a little food coma.
A little bit of drool.
Well, I guess we'll start back into this one here. Welcome to another episode of Savor the Burn podcast. Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in. My name is Jonathan, and across the table from me is Mr. Wayne Wilkes. We call him W2. Tonight we are trying rye whiskeys, and in a previous episode you heard us try the Copper Fox Rye out of the state of Virginia. It is aged 1 year, and it was very tasty, very sweet. I would 100% try that again any day of the week. It was a little hot, but the spiciness of the rye was probably the culprit for that hot. But it was kind of in your face and out of your face pretty quick. And the finish was nice and smooth and sweet. I wouldn't put it creamy, but I would call it smooth.
Yeah, I think with that one, and I would venture a guess that this next one is probably going to fall into that category. But I think the youngness of it plays into a little bit of that.
Yeah, even
hotness.
Though we still had a few question marks above our heads over what does that mean with this aging process, because there was wood chips involved in the bourbon barrel, whatever it was, and it just kind of left us with a few more questions. This time, what do you got for us over there?
Deep in the heart of Texas. This one is the Balcones Texas Rye.
That definitely sounds good.
Which, you guessed it, is from Texas. Waco, Texas, to be exact.
The great state of Texas.
It says it's aged 1 year. It is 100 proof.
Okay.
So it packs a little bit more of a punch.
Yeah, we're no stranger to 100 proof whiskeys, are we?
Not at all.
I know I've had a few.
I'm just reading up a little bit. It says, in addition to a classic Texas single malt and 2 blue corn whiskeys, Balcones makes a breathtakingly good 100% rye whiskey without the E, whiskey with just the Y, made from Elbun rye from Northwest Texas. I'm excited to get going on this. You want to pass your glass on over?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Reached over and felt my non-reaching shoulder pop.
These glasses have worked out pretty well. I went on Amazon a while back to order myself a set of the Glencairn Scotch glasses, and I found a fantastic deal on a set of 2. And so I ordered them, and when they came in, they were the wee versions. They're Glencairn glasses, but they're little bitty tiny glasses compared to the other ones. And the other ones are fairly petite glasses as well. They're designed to be a taster. You're not making a cocktail in this type of a glass.
Right. These are the perfect size for what we're doing.
So I went ahead and ordered the regular Glencairn glasses, but these are perfect. These give you about a shot's worth, just the perfect size for this.
Maybe one day we'll post links as to where you folks can get some of your own if you feel so inclined. And I think, thank you. I think that anyone that enjoys trying to pull as many flavors onto your palate from the whiskey as you can, I would suggest getting these little glasses.
And especially having these little sample packs that I'm getting from the flavor.com subscription, they're perfect because you're only getting a couple ounces anyway. And so they make for just a great little taster. This particular one, I've actually been reading about it and looking at it for quite a while now. This is the first time I've had it or going to have it, but I've seen it on their site for a while now, and I'm very excited about it because even though it is a 1 year age on it, the tasting notes on the nose talk about cocoa, pepper, and espresso, and a hint of chocolate.
There's
when
you smell it, it is there. Smelling the espresso coming off of a rye whiskey really caught me by surprise. I had to look at the notes and see if I was like going crazy, or am I smelling espresso, or am I smelling like a chocolate coffee kind of smell? And boy, howdy, it's definitely here. These guys, man, if the flavor taste on the palate is anything remotely close to what it is on the nose, this is going to be incredible.
I've got several bourbons that have a lot of different chocolate notes in them. And that makes sense because a bourbon is typically a sweeter whiskey than a rye. But man, this really has a really strong, good blend of espresso and it's a hint of chocolate, but it smells like, you pop the top off of a lid of cocoa mix.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm picking up on there.
Maybe that's why it took me back to my childhood in Sugar Creek. I was like, where am I? Because you know how it goes. You can smell something, and the next thing you know, like you're back at your grandma's house in your childhood. It's like, wow, this is wild. I get that way sometimes when I smell lilacs, because she had a lilac bush in her yard, along with other. Speaking of grandmas, I guess I should go back and talk about dear old grandma. But she had lilacs, and she had honeysuckle. What's the other thing? Roses. She had plenty of roses. Yeah, I'm looking forward to putting this on the palate here. I'm going to take a taste.
Man, that espresso and the chocolate still comes through on the palate, too.
It's considerably hotter than I was expecting. The heat sticks with you for a while.
Yes, it does.
It's not over. Oh, and the finish.
There's a little bit of a mint to it.
Maybe it's just power of suggestion, but yeah, there's something minty. I don't know if it's peppermint or spearmint, but it's not a medicinal kind of mint.
No.
I'd put it at peppermint.
The other one definitely I felt like had a little bit of that medicinal quality to it. This is definitely it's a mint pepper kind of a taste.
And your flavor, your taste notes here, it says tobacco and chocolate flavor with mint touch, followed by pepper and oak. Yeah,
there's definitely some oak on there.
The oak I could smell on the back end of after the nose. I haven't reached the back end of the taste and tasted the oak. It's still very... Is effervescent a word that can be used for this?
Sure.
I'm not sure, but it's like menthol cigarettes. If you've ever decided to make a bad decision and try a menthol cigarette, it's got like when you breathe in, it's got a coldness, a cool kind of feel to it. That's where I'm at with the back end on this, as far as the tasting goes. Still no nothing with the oak. And usually I zero in on the oak.
The finish talks about a robust mint finish with hints of dry oak and cedar.
Okay.
I'm actually picking up some cedar on there, which is really interesting.
And rare. Like
yeah.
you never really pick up on cedar on anything. But yeah, I keep going back to the smell. The smell is amazing. And in the taste on the palate, it still gives you some of that espresso and that chocolatey flavor. But that heat, I was not expecting that heat. It's hot.
Yeah,
it's good though.
It's definitely hot. No, it's very good. Reading up a little bit on this distillery, 10 years ago, it's still a a young distillery. Balcones was a tiny startup distillery in an old welding shop under a bridge in Waco, Texas.
Wow.
After it was all refurbished and equipped with copper pot stills from Portugal, a new shiny whiskey distillery was born, and the magic could start. Very interesting. So
that's a really cool
origin
story.
They're only have been around for 10 years.
Yeah, you can...
Under a bridge.
Under the bridge in Waco. Waco, Texas. Yeah, you can almost envision that if you've ever been in a welding shop. It's got a certain look to it, a certain smell, a certain feel. There's testosterone everywhere. We're all fire and sparks and chipping hammers and
I wonder if it was a welding shop while they were starting up the distillery. I could see that. Sit around working.
Knowing what comes out of those welding rods after while you're using them. I would hope not. I would really hope not. I would really hope that they moved all that out and then brought in their copper stills. And copper stills is great. Like, I think copper stilled whiskey, or at least this way, it's that way in moonshine. Like, if you've ever had anybody still some moonshine from a home still, the copper stills definitely taste different than a stainless steel still. So I'm definitely a fan of copper pot stills. They can be very pricey. But from Portugal, how did that happen? And how did they get a Portuguese copper still?
That's a long trip.
Yeah, all the way to Waco, Texas. I bet there's probably a lot of really interesting things in their story. Vanilla. Now that I keep talking, I got vanilla on the far back end of the on the finish. I'm still waiting on oak, but yeah. Anyway. Sidebar, but yeah, I bet they've got a lot more to offer in their origin story. I'm sure they had to keep it short and sweet because people don't want to get into the nitty gritty. But I mean, it's just like this whiskey with their story. I bet anybody that got a taste of it would want to dive in deeper and get more. Yeah,
I'm sitting over here already thinking, this is a bottle that retails for $39.
$39,
right? I'm definitely interested in picking up a full bottle after this taste.
Yeah, it's not quite breakfast whiskey, but it's after breakfast whiskey. Like if you have some wheat toast with some butter on it, maybe some blackberry jam. I'm a fan of blackberry jam. Just kind of.
You've had some blackberry moonshine this week too.
Oh, I have from what is it?
Old Smoky.
Old Smoky. Yeah. That I'm a big fan of those flavored moonshine. Sometimes like the cherry ones with the cherries in it, the bright red ones, it can taste a little bit like cough syrup towards the end, or speaking of medicinal flavors. But it's just because like when I was growing up, cough syrup was like 90 proof, knock this kid on his ass and put him to sleep so he could feel better in the morning. Cough syrup. But I mean, we might as well have been sipping on Southern Comfort, but which I don't know why. Maybe it's my white trash DNA, but I would suggest having Southern Comfort in your medicine cabinet to this day. But I really enjoy some of those flavored Old Smoky moonshines that they have.
I love them.
A purist would not consider that moonshine whatsoever.
I can't escape when we talk about moonshine. My sister and brother-in-law live in Knoxville, and we got to visit them a few years back down there, and they took Katie and I down to Gatlinburg, and we did a full day of distillery moonshine tasting. My goodness. We drank a lot of moonshine that day. But it's super cool. They have all the different flavors.
And when you were tasting these flavors, were they full shots or were they like quarter shots?
They were the small like little communion
cup little
cups. Yep,
tiny things like quarter ounce.
Yep,
kind of serving or whatever.
But every distillery is setting about 20 of them in front of you, so they all have the full gamut of moonshine, and most of them started you, I think it's Old Smoky, or maybe it's Sugarland. One of them's got one that's called Blue Lightning.
Okay. That is
their straight jet fuel moonshine.
Oh, and it's blue? That's not good. It needs to be run through the still again. Because if it's blue, it's got bad stuff in it.
They start you with that one, which makes you immediately pucker and just go blind for a couple of seconds, and then they work you through all their different flavors.
Son, you're going to go blind. If I had a nickel.
If you keep doing that, son, you're going to go blind.
Yeah. Could I just keep drinking it until I need glasses?
Moonshine, my sister, Knoxville, Gatlinburg. Dolly World is kind of in between the two of those.
I have not been to Dolly World.
So I have not been there either. Definitely driven by it on that trip, but my daughter was just there visiting her.
Yeah, I saw that on socials.
And I haven't. I'm supposed to meet up with her, I think, this weekend and get together. But she brought some goodies back from my sister. So
what is the little? Did she knit it or did she crochet it?
So she's really big into different arts and crafts and stuff, and she's kind of found a love of crocheting.
Okay,
and she's kind of gotten a little side hobby going where she loves to just create different things. And so I sent her a message. I was like, hey, can you make me an old fashioned? And so I gave her no direction whatsoever.
Okay. So she looked up.
I basically sent her a photo that I took of an old fashioned that I made. And I was like, here you go.
Yeah, crochet that, kid.
And she took off and put a little smiley face on it. And it's got a little orange slice and a cherry on top. And
is it flat or does it open like a koozie or what? I couldn't really tell from the picture.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. So you've seen as much as I've seen.
Yep.
Okay. Well, either way, like even if it doesn't open up like a koozie, it's still really cool.
In fact, we saw it pretty much kind of at the same time because she didn't send it to me ahead of time. She tagged me on Instagram and
Okay.
Surprise.
Yeah, surprise. Yeah, she was she down there the Old Smoky and what was the other one? Sugarland.
Sugarland.
All right, at home, speaking of blackberry moonshine, I have a jar of both, Sugarland and Old Smoky. Like, I'm kind of weird. Like, I like to finish one jar before I start another. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe I'll pop it open and try to do a side-by-side and see which one I like best. But I like Sugarland, too. I mean, they got some really good flavored
Sugarland's got some good
flavored
stuff.
moonshines.
If you haven't gotten into them, you should try what they call sipping creams.
Okay, yeah.
They're kind of like a Bailey's type of a liqueur cream.
I've had one of them. I think it was Sugarland. It was a sipping cream. They have blanking on the flavor.
They have a dark chocolate
that's
sipping
that's
cream.
exactly what it was because I was putting it in my coffee.
We've got a jar upstairs, and it comes in the mason jar.
Yeah.
And when we were there, we bought several things, but one of the things that we bought was they sell a mason jar lid that has a pour spout stuck in the top of it. So we have that. So once you get it, you take the lid off, you put the pour spout on, and you're good to go.
It's a lot easier to pour.
I mean, it's either that or just put a straw in it.
Which you could do because it's that sippable. It's that good.
It's so good.
Like you said, it's just like Bailey's, but it's not. It's different. It's made out of moonshine.
It's a moonshine.
Yeah, it's got a different kind of kick to it.
Yeah, it's definitely not your full 120, 150 proof moonshine.
Yeah, 150 proof slap in the face. I've got some really hot moonshine that my buddy Moose gave me.
But it's still a little bit hotter than your Bailey's.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Definitely a different taste.
Good stuff.
Just like this Balcones Texas Rye that we found in the Flaviar here.
What kind of rating would you give this one?
Man.
We started doing that the last time and over at Mitch's.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good idea, and I think we need to kind of continue kind of wrapping up and talking through, how would we rate this?
I would, I don't know. Like the only thing pulling me back away from giving it a solid 10 or a solid 9 is the amount of heat that was in it. That draws me back. But it wasn't like uber offensive. It didn't stick around and just punish you the entire time it was there. It let you know that it was there and it was screaming in your face for a couple seconds. But after that, it was okay. So I don't know. I'd put it. But the nose and the tongue. And the mouth on this.
That espresso and chocolate is fantastic.
I've never had a rye whiskey.
On a rye whiskey.
Like this at all. And the rye, I think, kind of took a bit of a backseat to this. Because it wasn't as that rye whiskey you can expect a peppery, a black pepper, white pepper kind of flavor punch to it. It really the rye really took a backseat in this. in this Balcones Texas Rye.
Would it be safe to say that you would favor this one over the Copper Fox?
I would, just because I'm a huge fan of chocolate and espresso, and things of coffee. But that's just a personal thing. So I would give it. Oh, fuck it! I'd give it a solid 8.5.
Okay.
Loaves of banana bread. Banana bread. But yeah, definitely 8.5 out of 10.
Very good.
Where would you put it?
Oh man,
I mean, were you a huge fan of the? I mean, you were blown away by the chocolatey and the espresso part as much as I was, I would think. But I mean,
Yeah.
how would you rate it?
I'm struggling a little bit.
Right.
I want to give it a really good rating, but I also want to dig into it a little bit more. Let it, Mitch talked about
The second pour.
The second pour.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is one that definitely.
It needs it.
Which one was it? One of the ones we had, one of the Irish whiskeys we had didn't have. He kind of hated the first tasting of Lavadia.
I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I was going to try to look it up.
I've talked to him this past week. Since then, that bottle's empty.
Oh, it's empty. So he's gone back and visited and revisited. That was the one that was like 7th best.
Yes.
Irish whiskey. And he was, God, I gotta look it up. Limavada. Limavada? Does that sound right?
That does sound right. As I've been building on and expanding out our new website, I have added a page called The Liquor Cabinet. And I've kind of been adding all of the different whiskeys as we've been trying them. Limavadia.
Limavadia.
Limavady. It's an Irish single barrel.
It's very good, and what I like about the liquor cabinet tab on the website is you can as you scroll through, you click on the picture and it'll take you right to their website.
Yeah.
So you can do all the reading, you can look through all the information that they have available on there, and you can also see what else they have from that distillery.
Yeah.
Because more often than not, you're not just going to go to. I mean, just like it's not as extensive as like the moonshines that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have like 30 different flavors, but most distilleries are going to have 4 or 5 different offerings. They'll have cask strength. They'll have different ages in the barrels.
Yep.
And they may even have different barrels that they've been aging in. So that's definitely one thing that I really like about the website and how you have that set up.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm continually trying to improve and add to what we've got there, and we're still new to this, and we're just getting started. So for now, I'm just kind of throwing the different whiskeys up on there as we try them. Here before too long, I want to be able to reorganize that a little bit better and maybe feature certain ones a little bit better, but then be able to just have, lists of hyperlinks or whatever. So everything will still be on there, but organize it to where I can kind of give a little bit of preference to specific ones and kind of go from there. But, still work in progress. But yeah, everything we try here and are about to try, you'll see it appear up on our liquor cabinet.
I just think it's a really cool feature.
Yeah, but back to I'm struggling with this because I really want to dig into this one a little bit more. The flavors are just so unique to a rye.
So unique, it absolutely needs a second pour.
I'm also thinking too that I don't know if I think this one would work well as a cocktail. I love this one by itself, and I'm having because the espresso and chocolate notes are so unique to it. My brain is trying to wrap its head around what cocktail would this work really well with, and I'm having a hard time come up with that. And that's not a bad thing.
If you have a coffee inspired cocktail,
maybe that's the key.
It's like a cold brew coffee with maybe not an Irish cream, but some kind of creamer. It might just be your standard creamer, and nothing flavored because you want the flavors from this whiskey to be bold and present.
I think that hits the nail on the head right there. Is finding a cocktail that really accents and plays with the already flavors that are there.
Yeah, some
that
cocktails,
coffee, the chocolate,
can do with just an average whiskey, an average bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about it being the ingredient to make the cocktail. Like with we've talked before about old fashions. Like a lot of folks will just use whatever bourbon they got, but some people are very specific on which bourbons they get used. So what I really like, just because I'm a nerd and I'm a head case about some of this stuff, is like if you're going to feature a specific whiskey, a bourbon, a scotch, the cocktail should be designed around that specific one to help accentuate its what it's got to give.
Well,
and its its eccentricities or whatever in its flavor profile.
Like you were talking about earlier with trying your whiskey sour, using the Scotch sour formula.
Did not work.
Didn't work at all. And so, back to that, catering your cocktail around the specific whiskey.
And it might not have worked with a Scotch. With just any old Scotch. Like it may have had to be somewhat ballpark Scotch specific because of how you remember how we did the peat monster from
Compass Box.
Compass Box. Thank you. And it wasn't overly peaty at all. It was there. You could taste it, but it wasn't so aggressive like a full peat forward Scotch can be. That might not have worked so well in the Scotch sour, and neither would have the full bore peat punch you in the face. Offering of Scotch could be. It had to be that middle ground, and I think that's what we found in that Highland 12.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was perfect. I still think about it because it was just that damn good.
Well, and as I shared with you, I thought about it quite a bit this last weekend.
You did. You sent me a message just like, this is number 6. And then like 2 seconds later, it's like, make that 8. And I'm like, man, I've been at band practice for 20 minutes. And you're over here getting blitzkrieged on Scotch sours. I don't know if blitzkrieged is the right term to use on that. But
so good.
Whatever. Yeah. So good. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put it? Just I know it's unfair to the tasting of this Balcones Texas Rye, just because you've got like half a pour. Just because we tried it in the taster, but you got a good nose, you got a good mouth on it.
And I'm also thinking about the ones we have tried where we have kind of put a number to it.
Yeah,
I don't think I've given anything more than a 7. So I'm leaning towards just kind of sticking with that 7. I'm trying to be very reserved on getting too high with that.
Okay.
But I think my 7 is a really good 7. Yeah, this was really good.
What would take it to an 8?
And surprising too, because like I mentioned on the last one, when I read that this was a 1-year aged rye whiskey, I immediately was like, man, this is gonna be hot. It's not gonna be developed. It's gonna be simple. There's not gonna be any level of complexity to this, and I really, really enjoyed it.
It was hot, but it definitely was developed. It's complex.
Yeah.
And many subtle layers of flavor.
So
you're sticking to a solid 7.
Yeah.
I'm a little higher at an 8, 8.5.
And I might push that up to a 7.5.
Like you saw the 1-year age on it, and I immediately equate that to this is going to be hot. It's going to be like jet fuel. And then when it said 50% alcohol at 100 proof, I'm like, it's going to be. There's no question about it.
Right,
we're going to get hit in the face with some heat. And it was there. It was definitely there, but it wasn't overpowering like some can be, but it was definitely there. Like if you understand what kind of heat, what that burn that we're talking about, the heat that we're talking about is, from the alcohol. If you're used to that kind of thing coming from a 1-year or maybe a 1 to 3 year whiskey, you know what to expect. So that wasn't a surprise for me. I was expecting it to be there. What I was not expecting was all that flavor.
Right.
And I was happy with how it was there, but it didn't stick around too long and just burn you all the way down into your stomach, which most 1 years do. Mm-hmm. But this was definitely a surprise, and a pleasant surprise, and I'm very happy that I tried it, and I am going to try this again.
Yeah, I might have to just go ahead and get the full bottle of this.
Yeah, so dear listener, if you're looking for a somewhat complex rye whiskey,
$39.
$39, man. That's it's like a sore dick. You can't beat it. Definitely look for this Balcones Texas Rye from the great state of Texas. It's got so much to offer, from the cocoa and the chocolate notes and the espresso that you smell and taste. Yeah. You can't go wrong with it. Like if you're looking for something different and you like those things, definitely try this out. And if you have to cut it with half an ice cube, do so. But if you're used to a hot whiskey, you won't need it. You'll just be ready for it. You'll do it, get it over with, you get it out of the way, and you can really experience everything that this has to offer. Grab me a sip of water.
The last couple that we were trying were just aged at a year, so this one's a little bit different than that. This one comes to us from Indiana. It is the Rossville Union Mastercrafted Straight Rye Whiskey that retails for right at $50. And this one is aged for 5 to 7 years.
Oh, wow.
So I'm totally expecting this to be a little bit smoother.
I would hope so.
Not quite as hot, maybe. This one is 47%, so that would be, 94 proof?
Yeah, 94 proof. And the color on it, from what we've seen so far in the tester tube, it says dark amber. I would call that dark amber.
Yeah, it's definitely the darkest out of these three that we've been trying. So
it says here in the history notes on this, a man by the name George Ross founded Ross and Squibb Distillery in 1847. Aside from a brief switch to industrial production during Prohibition, of course, what else are they going to do? It has been producing fine spirits continuously since then. Through a series of mergers and acquisitions, it has been owned by Seagram's. How do you pronounce this? Pernod? Pernod? P-E-R-N-O-D? Pernod Richard? And others over the years. But since 2011, it has been the flagship of Luxco, one of the largest producers of whiskey, gin, and other spirits.
Let's get this poured.
Pour it over there next to the microphone. Sounds good. Nice. Sounds like it's got a good pour going on in there. I've been really happy with your rye selection that was sent to you. Of course, I'm a fan of rye whiskey, so there's that.
I think last time I talked a little bit about ones that I enjoy and are kind of my go-to ryes. What are some of yours?
A go-to rye for me would be Bullet Bourbon, or not Bullet Bourbon, Bullet Rye. It's made by Bullet. It's it sits on the shelf right next to Bullet Bourbon. I really like it. I also love Basil Hayden Dark Rye. It's it had, I've said this before, it's been compared to jet fuel, but that's just because it's got a high proof, and I think it's like right at 100 proof, so it's going to be hot. I mean, once you get past that, the taste is something else. But my dad used to have this saying. I'm sure he still does have this saying. Once you get past the smell, you've got it licked. Now that doesn't apply. That can apply to several things. But when it comes to like hot whiskeys and bourbons and things of that nature, spirits of that nature, it definitely applies. Man, so for the nose, I'm not pulling any rye off of this. Nose, I'm pulling caramel. I'm pulling actual definitely apple and
vanilla.
Yeah, vanilla. Like, to me, it smells an awful lot like just your old standard Jim Beam. And I wasn't expecting that from a rye. Hopefully the mouth will be a completely different taste. What are you pulling off of this?
Pretty much the same thing. A lot of vanilla, some caramel. There's definitely a fruitiness to it, Maybe that is apple.
Let's get a little taste on the mouth here.
I'm with you though. I'm not pulling any of the rye.
The rye is on the mouth. The rye's on the mouth.
There it is.
Okay. The heat on this one traveled down into the stomach, which the other offerings you had on the sample pack sent to you didn't. However, this one on the back end has a lot more apple. It wasn't caramel forward, but it was present. The rye was there also. Now, what did the website tell us that it's supposed to smell like and taste like here?
It says on the nose we should have a aroma is bold with rye spice, dried fruit, nutmeg, and cinnamon.
Well, my nose completely skipped cinnamon and nutmeg, but maybe the apple that I thought I was smelling was the dried fruit.
Yeah.
It doesn't specify which dried fruit it smells like, but it says here on the...
Maybe that's more like a fruit cake.
Maybe. It says here on your notes here on the mouth, the texture is smooth with a light smokiness over dried fruits, toffee, caramel, and toffee. Toffee's a flavor that I had on the mouth. Caramel and vanilla. And you were right. I called caramel. You called vanilla. We both tasted toffee, but didn't know how to...
I think there is a little bit of a smokiness to it.
You're getting smoky off of this?
Just a little bit of a hint. It says on the finish is medium length with hints of cocoa and smoke. And I'm not getting either of those on the finish.
I'm not either. I'm pulling a light rye, a little something aromatic that I can't quite identify yet, but oakiness. It doesn't say anything about oak in these notes, but I could smell the oak and I can taste the oak. I'm pulling sweetness, like vanilla-y sweetness on the finish, and it's kind of sweet. I don't taste anything citrusy in this like I would taste with Jim Beam, but it's kind of hard to describe. It's probably... Stumped is what I am. This is one of those whiskeys that it doesn't taste the way it smells.
No,
we've had. I'm surprised by how common that is. With just the small amount of whiskeys and bourbons that we've tried here on the podcast, I'm surprised by how common that has been with the distance between taste and smell goes.
Yeah, this says the blend is well balanced, aged 5 to 7 years in new oak, and bottled after a very nice 47% ABV.
I wonder if the new oak is what's giving it the oakiness that I'm tasting.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too.
But yeah, there's the rye, and then there's that mellow sweetness after the burn kind of fades away. Very interesting. This one I think would go great in a cocktail. Mm-hmm. Not just because it lacks a complexity that some other rye whiskeys have and are known for. It's a decent rye whiskey, I think. And at $50, it might be a little high on the price point, but I think some of the lower shelf rye whiskeys aren't going to have some of the tastes like toffee and dried fruits, and even the light smokiness that I have yet to taste with it. I would think if you're looking to at least try something, and if you have the extra money laying around, why not try it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think out of the three, I think this is maybe my least favorite. Of
the three in your sample pack that included the Copper Fox Rye, this offering, this Rossville Union Mastercrafted Straight Rye Whiskey, and the Balcones Texas Rye, this is definitely my least favorite. Now, I wouldn't pour it in and taste it and like be offended that my friend offered me this. I would drink it and I would enjoy it because I still enjoy it. But if I were walking down the whiskey aisle and I recognized it, I probably wouldn't pick it up over something else. Because the Basil Hayden rye whiskey, dark rye, is I think it was like right at $44. This is roughly $50. Save myself a few bucks and get a better rye whiskey, I think. But that's just going off of memory. I haven't had the Basil Hayden dark rye in maybe a couple years.
I do like the Basil Hayden.
Have you had their rye, or have you just had the Basil Hayden?
It's been a minute since I've had the rye, but I have had it. and I have had just the regular bourbon.
Okay, I haven't had the regular bourbon.
It's good.
Yeah?
It's really good, and it makes a fantastic cocktail.
Yeah, I was just trying to read over the notes on here to see if we could glean any more information off of it. But so far it just says the Rossville Union line of rye whiskeys is named after the original distillery in Lawrenceburg. Rossville Union Mastercrafted Straight Rye Whiskey is the first release created from just 159 of 2 core mash bills from the MGP lineup. The first is 95% rye and 5% malted barley to deliver a nice rye kick. The second is a 51% rye, 45% corn, and 4% malted barley to provide a balance of sweetness. And I'm getting the sweetness. I'm getting the rye. Maybe some of that smokiness that I thought I was tasting, in hindsight, is the barley.
Mm-hmm.
If you're familiar, dear listener, if you're familiar with a barley forward type beer, then you know what to expect. But this isn't barley forward as far as a whiskey goes. And it goes on to say here, the blend is well balanced, aged 5 to 7 years in new oak, and bottled at a very nice 47% ABV. And I just now realized you already read that. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed with this. I'd put it up there with I would call it decent. It's not a showstopper for me. It's not gonna headline the festival, so to speak.
It's funny because as I was kind of going through and comparing the notes between these three, kind of making my assumptions ahead of the tastings, this is the one that I thought was going to be the one that shined
because of the extra,
just because
aging.
the extra time aging them. I was expecting it to be a little bit fuller, a little bit more complex flavors, but in taste and what you get on the palate, to my surprise, the 2 1 years that we tried were pretty fantastic and very drinkable.
Yeah, and this is just 2 individual people's opinion on this. I mean, you might go out and try it and have a completely different experience with it. Like, I wholeheartedly agree with the extra aging. I expected it to be less hot, and it was twice as hot as the other 2, I think, especially since the burn made its way all the way to the stomach. It's lacking complexity of flavor in comparison to the other 2, but by itself, which is, I think, what we should evaluate this, not compare it to other things, but evaluate it to itself, for lack of better terminology with my limited intellect and vocabulary. I find this a very mid-range-ish in a non-hateful or non-meaning to be offensive way towards all the hard work that these folks have put into their product. I mean, if I gave it a 1 to 10, I'd probably put it at I hate to say it, a 5 or a 6. But that's just my opinion. Yeah. And feel free to send your hate mail, your email, forward that to Jonathan at savortheburn.com. That's just my opinion. And opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and they all stink. But unlike opinions, this whiskey, it doesn't stink. It's not a shit whiskey. It does have a complexity that, and I'm going to go back on what I just said, not to compare it to other things, but I mean, if you compared it to one of my old standards, Jim Beam, it's very similar, but it's not. It's definitely more complex, especially after the taste. When it reaches the mouth, and the finish on it, it's not night and day difference, but it is different, and it's noticeably different. And I like it. I don't love it. I like it. That's why I'm putting it at the 5 and at the 6.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm right there with you. Yeah, 5, 6 is probably where this is.
Yeah, and I would think we both agree that this would work great in some form of cocktail?
I think so. There's definitely enough there that a cocktail would help elevate it and take it into some different directions.
And yeah, speaking of different directions, trying to do a little show prep for this round of tastings, I looked up, I tried to Google like rye specific cocktails. Cocktail recipes or whatever. Yeah. And you did the same. You sent me a couple of different compilations, 17 best and top 30, different things. And while most of the recipe ideas that were in those articles were essentially the same thing, just like with a little bit of different flavor, a little different twist. Like some might have the cherry, some might have an orange peel. Like, how do you use the orange peel? Like, do you twist it and rub it around the edge? Not everybody does that. Like, do you shake it with ice, or you just pour it straight in and stir it?
Right.
Shake it, not stirred. But like, there's 100 different kinds of or maybe even 1,000 different kinds of cocktail recipes that you could use something like this. I think it might be fun to take this whiskey from Rossville Union, this master-crafted straight rye whiskey, and try to find a recipe, a cocktail recipe that really makes it shine.
Yeah, like we talked about with that Balcones.
Right. Yeah. With that, it's. I mean, you could taste the
cocktail
the
around
espresso. Build the cocktail around the whiskey. You know, maybe just because it's not the prettiest whiskey, it's what it has to offer takes other influences to really make its uniqueness shine. And it is unique. It is a unique whiskey. I just, for the life of me, I just can't brainstorm on the fly to think of what cocktail it would complement it.
Hey, on another
other than an old fashioned, maybe.
Sure, that always works. On another note, I don't know if you noticed or not, but a couple days ago, our good buddy Carl Lowe sent us a voicemail message on our podcast.
Okay, I remember seeing you said something about like you sent me something on the voicemail. That was the one link that I didn't click. Like of all the things that you sent me, are we about to listen to his voicemail?
Oh, you want to?
Think I don't? For all of you hearing us talk about Carlo and his uniquely deep voice, I'm looking forward to hearing this.
As the king, I'd like to have you keep my name out of your mouth in regards to your mother's milk and my mother's milk. This is a dumb thing. Hey, it's Carl. Fun podcast. I've listened to all the episodes now. Gee, maybe someday after you guys are done making fun of me and my sex in a canoe Miller Lite, you'll have me on.
I snorted.
And I can tell my story about how the Miller Lite keeps the voices away.
Carlo, you are more than welcome to be on this podcast anytime.
And we'll talk about Miller Lite and your mother's milk all you want.
Yeah, he's the kind of dude that he'll drink whiskey, but he just drinks it to get drunk. Like he doesn't care about all the notes and all the flavors and all the you know, everything else about it. He just wants to drink it and get drunk. And so many people are like that, and that's A-okay with me.
I think while we were at the West Bottom Whiskey Company, I think he kind of wanted to say, "Do you got a Miller Lite?"
What kind of beer do you have? Do you have it on the bottom shelf? Now, in that voicemail, it cut a lot of the low end out of his voice, didn't it? I was like, "That's really Carl?" And then when he said it's Carlo, I'm like, "Okay, that's definitely him."
Yeah, we'll definitely bring Carlo over and have him on.
Yeah, or maybe we go over there to him because he's got
Sure.
that fire pit, and he's the one that taught us to put peanut butter cups on s'mores.
Oh man,
Yeah, his birthday's coming up here soon.
smash that peanut butter cup in between that marshmallow and
that graham cracker.
And crack open your Miller Lite.
Right. To each their own. Yes, sir. I think, though, if I could drink most beers, I don't think I would go to that one. I'm a fan of the Dragon's Milk. It's like a milk stout. That one's really good. I can't really...
Have you had the barrel aged version of?
I haven't. I've seen it on the shelf.
It is fantastic.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The Rossville Union Master Crafted Straight Rye Whiskey out of the good state of Indiana. So you give this a 5, and I'd give this a 5, maybe 5.5. Do you have any parting thoughts on this bad boy?
I don't.
I really don't either.
no.
I think we pretty much hit every nail on the head with this one.
Yeah, not a bad whiskey, but just
It's not bad. It's not the best. It might be worth the money. I mean, it's $50. It's not going to make you or break you. You know, it might be worth the money to you because as with any of the things that we try here and we talk about here on Savor the Burn podcast, it's just our opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just it. You talk about that one's got a $50 retail value on there. The one before that the Balcones, that was a $39 bottle.
$39, and it blew our minds.
Yeah, and the price points, and we've talked about that price point.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's not always indicative to the taste.
What does that price point
what
mean?
You're getting?
And, the more expensive does not equate to the better bourbon, the better rye. Everyone's tastes are different also. So,
absolutely. So
what I deem as a good quality tasting bourbon is not going to be the same as the next guy, whoever. Putting those price points where they match up with your taste and your expectations aren't always there. And so
they're not always going to line up.
Right.
Well, dear listener, thank you for listening to the Savor the Bird podcast. That's all we have for this episode. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check us out on all other podcast apps such as Spotify, Audible, Apple Podcast, Google, Samsung, and many, many more. Check us out, the fantastic website, savortheburn.com. Find us on all socials. Please follow us and like our shit. Hit the blue thumb. Smash the heart button. Anywhere you can find us. We need the follows and we need the feedback. And speaking of feedback, you can email info@savortheburn.com. You can email me personally at jonathan@savortheburn.com. You can email Wayne at w2@savortheburn.com. And once again, thank you so much for listening. Keep on burning.
Keep on burning.
Fuck, that's what it is.
Shit.
Okay. Shit. Okay. And keep on burning.